Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is February the 16th. It is Hump Day Wednesday. We have an incredible NBA slate of 11 games, and I am joined by our special guest analyst here, Mr. Gundacker himself. I, by the way, am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And what do you think, Gun? How are you, man? Did you have an enjoyable week so far? The Super Bowl, all the fun stuff that went on?
Yeah. Super Bowl was a great day. Yesterday, Valentine's Day was pretty smooth, and we got two more slates, and we get a couple days off to recharge and get ready for the second half.
Yeah, I'm fired up for these slates here. Yesterday, 7 games. Today, a big fat 11. And then a decent 5-gamer tomorrow. So they're jamming in as many games as they can before the All-Star break. We'll be doing an All-Star game day Sunday. We'll be covering that. I'll have a quick podcast, and we'll be providing some info for that game if you want to play that showdown. But yeah, you're right. This weekend's going to be quiet. We're getting a lot of stuff done here, Gun, and you're welcome to join us, by the way. We announced yesterday our first annual get-together at the NBA Summer League in Vegas. So we're going to be there the 8th, 9th, and 10th of July. So that should be a blast. We're going to have more information that we'll be posting on our website and on Twitter for that. So can't wait for that one. Get all the names and faces together that we talk to every day. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun, and it also sounds like it's going to be pretty hot in July in Las Vegas.
Oh, it definitely will, but we're not.
Yeah, we're used to it, right?
Outside activity. So I'll meet you at the craps table or whatever. Who knows? All right. Well, we don't have a lot of time to waste today. I do want to say this on the way in. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a quick thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and give us a comment. Gun and I have been taking turns on each other's shows, and we want to continue to do that. The collaboration has gotten a ton of positive results and comments. So if you want to continue seeing us work together on these, give us a quick comment. Let us know what you think about it. And, hopefully you get the best of two worlds, 2 different looks at a slate, and it's going to prepare you best to just absolutely smash it. We certainly are planning on continuing to do some Saturday live streams with Gun. Obviously not this Saturday with the All-Star break taking place. But all right, my man, here we go. We're going to go all 11 games, no messing around. We're going to get through this sucker. 9 of the 22 teams are either on the first or the second night of a back-to-back. So that will increasingly affect some things. The good part is, this is the least I've seen this COVID protocol stuff. It seems to finally be dying out, knock on wood here, but that's a great plus. So that'll give us an idea. The change that we do have, Gun, is all of these traded players are now starting to get in there. We're starting to get an idea of the rotations, the minutes. So it does put a new twist on it, and we'll uncover that as we go through these. All right, we only have one 7 o'clock game. It is the Atlanta Hawks at the Orlando Magic. And that the second night of a back-to-back for the wonderful Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta comes into this game 27-30. Orlando, a stellar 13-46. Not good. As far as injuries, we have John Collins out for Atlanta, so that's big. And then 4 guys out for Orlando: Fultz, Hampton, Isaac, and Wagner. So sort of the same old with those guys out for that team. As far as statistically, pace a little bit above normal for this game, so that helps a bit. Atlanta is favored by 6, by the way. It's a 230 total, so solid total. 118 implied for Atlanta, 112 for Orlando. But the pace, as I was mentioning, is 14-12, so a little bit better than normal. 2 lousy defenses, 28 and 21 respectively. So definitely some interest here. I think a game we can hone in on and try to get out to a quick start. What's your take on this Atlanta-Orlando matchup, Gun?
Yeah, so the last couple games, they've had no John Collins on the Atlanta side, and that has allowed Clint Capella to go from playing low 20s to back-to-back games of 31 minutes. And on DraftKings and Fanduel, respectively, he's pretty cheap considering what he could put up in those type of minutes with his defensive peripherals rearing their ugly head. And I think the 30 minutes producing lackluster results, 21, 30 fantasy points on DraftKings, I think we should be appreciative of the matchup. Boston and Cleveland, very tough interior defenses and really tough overall defenses. Magic, not so much. So this might be a diamond in a rough. That's kind of obvious in hindsight tonight that Capella probably a little bit too cheap against this Magic team if he's going to get these type of minutes. So I do want to get some stake in some Clint Capella today. Hopefully his shot volume goes up a little bit. It's going to be more of a dunk only guy. But like I said, the matchup getting a little bit better and this total being what it is. I do have a lot of interest in getting some exposure to Clint Capella. On the other side for the Magic, Wendell Carter Jr. kind of sticking out to me against this depleted Hawks front court. He is currently projected for almost 40 fantasy points in my model this far out. Last couple games have been pretty fruitful for him. And in the last 3 games, he's popped usage rates of 29, 24, and 30%. So he is actively involved in what they're doing. And like you said, this defense for the Hawks, not that good. And I love that Carter will stuff the stat sheet for us, give us double-digit shot attempts, and he'll even chuck some from behind the arc. So I do like Wendell Carter versus Clint Capella as some early correlations. And then on DraftKings, Trae Young's probably just too cheap overall, 9,400. He's a guy he can give you 30 points, 10 assists, and go from there against a Magic defense that should give him very little resistance, as I say. So I do like Trae Young. Dropped a smooth 60 yesterday against an aforementioned tougher defense in the Cavs. And then the game prior, really solid outing against Boston. And Boston is I'm sure you've been paying attention, just defensively on another level right now. Yeah. Smoking the Sixers yesterday by 70? It was nuts. So if Trae Young can play his game and thrive against Boston and Cleveland with 30 and 41 real points and go from there, I don't expect much resistance in lieu of the Magic here. I'm actually a little surprised that the spread's only 6 in favor of the Hawks, because as bad as the Hawks defense is, they're still pretty up there in offensive efficiency. The Orlando Magic are not. So if we're going to get an opportunity at 4 quarters of Trae Young at 9,400 on DK, I like that. And I like correlating it with some of his shooters. And Capella is going to be a high field goal percentage guy on hopefully 8 shots. But that's what I'm on early.
Yeah, it's funny because the one thing that stood out to me the most, I generally have a preconceived thought of what the line's going to be. And I thought Atlanta would be like a 9-point favorite here. So I'm never off that much. And I don't know how Orlando really stays with them. And not that Atlanta's, tearing up the league, but Orlando's awful. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, that's what affected me, because initially when I started looking at it, I thought, okay, Trae Young at 94 on DraftKings is a nice bargain for what he's been producing. And as you astutely mentioned, they've been against really good defensive teams, and Orlando's terrible. So, Trae Young, I think, is a good play if this game stays close enough, and how you would think Vegas thinks it will with only a 6-point spread. So he's certainly in play for me. I'll tell you, I've got the bitterness of Capella, though. I played him last night, and he was a dog, man. I don't know if he's washed up or what the deal is. Have you watched him play much recently?
Yeah, so I mean, he's always going to be at the mercy of his ball handler. Same when James Harden was his point guard. He essentially can only dunk. And this is why when John Collins is healthy, Capella has not been part of the closing lineup, and he cannot shoot free throws. He's one of the worst free throw shooters in the league. So it becomes a liability in 2022 style of basketball. But right now they got to lean on him. And, Wendell Carter, Mo Bamba, they're going to put some size in the front court against him. So the need in the past 30 minutes has been there. I would expect when John Collins comes back, Capella's going to go down to the 20-ish minute mark again, and you might see more Okongwu, you might see more Collins filling at the 5 as well. But no, I think he's just not. He's a guy that's going to need his point guard to feed him for dunks, and then if he's not getting rebounds and blocks, you're going to be in for a tough night. And like I said, Cleveland is to be expected. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, it's a really tough front court. Boston, 17 rebounds against Boston, nothing to shake a stick at. So
no. And I fell for that stick, though, unfortunately, and thought yesterday would, even though he was going against a tough interior, that he'd step up. But I don't think he's older. I just don't think he's the same player. They had talked about moving him at the trade deadline, couldn't move him. And I know that Orlando's not a good defensive team, but Bamba and Carter, it's the double centers again, similar to what he faced against Cleveland. So even though he's only 5'3", I know I'm a little bitter from yesterday, and you have to forget about yesterday. Today's a fresh start, but I'm sort of down on him. I saw Okongwu grab a lot of his minutes in the fourth quarter, and they always pull him out the last 3 minutes or so, like you said, because he can't make a foul shot. So I get you. I think that's going to be a big debate and a tough decision because, let's face it, we have 22 centers to choose from today. I just don't know if I have the guts to put my hope in Capella, but I understand the logic there for sure. Trae Young's probably the best play for me on the Atlanta side. On the Orlando side, I'm tempted with Cole Anthony. He's had some big games for me, but he has certainly leveled off a little bit. I think Suggs is playing a little bit better, so that has helped, regressed a little bit of the usage for Anthony. But Trae Young's defense is atrocious. And, just the backcourt defense of Atlanta, even when they have Lou Williams in there, they just can't defend. So a little interest for me in either Cole Anthony at 6'7" or a 5'9" Suggs, who's starting to really get his feet in this league. But after that, I think that is about it.
Yeah, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs are going to give you some volatility, no floor, a little bit of ceiling, though. So depending on how many lineups you're running and what your risk tolerance is, you can justify it pretty easily in the matchup and this total and the spread. But you're not going to feel great about it pre-flop.
No, there's definite risk in this game, but it could be a bonanza game. If it is 6 and the score's in the 230s, it could be a something you have to have some exposure to,
Yep.
All right, game 2. We have 3 games at 7:30. The first one is the Washington Wizards and Indiana Pacers. Indiana favored by 1, 226 total, 112.5 implied for Washington, 113.5 for Indiana. So that's a nice little setup there. Washington comes in 26-30, Indiana 19-40 in their rebuild. One guy that has been playing a nice 20-25 minutes of the last few games, Rui Hachimura, is questionable. And generally in the past, when he's questionable, he has a tendency not to play. So keep an eye on that one because it will open some minutes up for other people in the rotation. Daniel Gafford's out, and I have to chuckle at this one. I'm a Mavs fan. Porzingis is out. Welcome to my world, Washington Wizards fans. So 3 games, he's already been out every game. So there you go. Anyway, Indiana, on their side, we've got Brogdon. Why is Brogdon questionable every damn day? Can you answer me that? And then he's ruled out. Does that make sense?
No, I speculated yesterday this close to the All-Star break. It's one of those extra time off if you just sit him out here. Yeah. I'm leaning to him not playing today.
Me too. I mean, this has to be like 10 to 15 times in a row he's been listed as questionable and then not plays. I mean, it's so agitating. I don't even know why I'm not counting him in anything. And then Isaiah Jackson is also questionable, and that has an effect on this game, no question, because he can really make a difference in the paint. Duarte, McConnell, Turner, and Warren are also out for Indiana. So there's definitely some volatility in this game. Coming in, it's also more complicated because it's the first night of a back-to-back for Washington, second night of a back-to-back for Indiana. You've got 2 fairly slow teams, Washington 25th, Indiana middle of the pack at 15, but 2 horrible defensive teams and getting worse. 23rd for Washington and 26th for Indiana, but they've been playing the last month as the 28th and 29th ranked defense. So, man, I think there are some really good opportunities here. And if this game stays close, like Vegas is saying, I know it sounds crazy, but this could be a sneaky, important game on the slate. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a game that is priced collectively on both sides, where there's not like 10, 11K breakers, and there's a lot of minutes at 6 and 5K or less.
Right.
Starting on the Pacer size, Halliburton and Buddy Hield representing high 30s to 40 minutes. And yesterday, Buddy Hield was single-handedly a catalyst in the Pacers not getting laughed out the gym. And today, it's 6K. If he's going to get 40 minutes of a play, double-digit shot attempts, upwards of 20, half of them being from behind the arc, depending on how good or bad of a shooting night he is. We mentioned volatility in Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony. Buddy Hield's the same story here. 2 of his last 3 games, 40 fantasy points or greater. On DraftKings, the middle game is 28. In that 28 fantasy point game, he shot 1 for 13 from 3. So that just goes to show you that he has an ability to go cold.
Break a slate. Yeah.
And then if Isaiah Jackson doesn't play today, Jalen Smith, one of the largest discrepancies in prices from site to site. He's 5,700 on FanDuel, but just 3,900 on DraftKings. Yesterday, he actually fouled out, and that'll happen when you're across from Giannis and Middleton. But today, if he could stay out of foul trouble, kind of like Isaiah Jackson, his per minute production is nuts. 17 minutes against Milwaukee yesterday, 25 fantasy points, 23 minutes against Minnesota the game prior, 36 fantasy points. So he's very active when he's got some time on the court. And I think that DraftKings price point's way too low if he gets another opportunity to start here. Kind of an unexpected start yesterday. A lot of people pegged Lance Stevenson to start with O'Shea Brissett stretching out at the 4, but that didn't happen. So if they run this back here and Jalen Smith gets another opportunity for those minutes, I'm very interested in that. That could have been a matchup thing where they thought the size and length of the Milwaukee Bucks needed more beef in that front court. So maybe they change things up and throw Lance back in the starting lineup. Obviously, that would move backwards a little bit. But overall, you could sell me on Smith. And you could even allow me to forgive O'Shea Brissett on DraftKings. Again, another big difference in price, almost 2K difference in his FanDuel to DK pricing. So the Pacers might be way more of a DraftKings stack for me. On the Wizards side, Kyle Kuzma hasn't really moved in price in several games now without Bradley Beal, and life without Spencer Dinwiddie and Montrezl Harrell. Against Detroit was kind of a lackluster play that night, but we know what his upside can be, and we typically in this split would expect him to exceed 40 fantasy points on both sites, and I think the price is right on FanDuel and DK, where you think if 40 happens more than it doesn't, he should be part of the player pool. Raul Neto splitting the guard minutes now with Ish Smith. Priced okay, but still has a shot for 30 fantasy points at under 5K. And then Corey Kispert and Danny Avdija. I've kind of decided that I'll never get these guys right. With the slate I play, Denny, it's the slate that Corey Kispert goes off and vice versa. But they are, obviously profiling as potential values here. And then Thomas Bryant. I've been staying away from Thomas Bryant just because initially the general perception was he should get a big boost without Daniel Gafford and without Montrezl Harrell, but remember, he's being healed from his lung injury, so he never really benefited from extra minutes. He just rewarded a couple of people for playing him with a huge game in 20 minutes, but it looks like he's going to be on a leash for the time being. So on 11-game slate, it's pretty far-fetched to find me out here in these streets with a guy that's on a 20-minute minute restriction. So I probably don't get to Thomas Bryant here, but you can give me Kuzma, you can give me almost all of the Pacers on DraftKings, and then I'll kind of spin the wheel, make a deal on these Wizards forwards and guards.
Great take, man. I mean, we're really thinking the same here a lot. I think that, again, at Coach Talk, our members, we go over everything with them. We talk about our strategy, building, having some exposure on DraftKings and FanDuel and Yahoo because of the different prices. And this is a perfect example. When you can get a guy $2,000 cheaper or just totally mispriced, it's almost like a free square. on that particular site where you may not have any ownership of them at all on the others. So an important thing that you brought up there. But just to touch on those, I'll go through real quick on a few of your comments on the Wizards. I think Kyle Kuzma is a great play on all sites. I mean, the fact that Rui is questionable and might not play, he takes a lot of those 4 and 5 spot minutes right now, at least 20, 25 minutes of those. And maybe some of them will go to Bryant, but they may just also play small at times and have Kuzma, play bigger. So I think he's going to get a lot of rebounds, a lot of opportunities in a close game without really a great defender on the other side to check him. I think Kuzma is a terrific play, and he's definitely in my player pool. I'm with you on Denny Avdia and Corey Kispert. I mean, it's very frustrating. They're both cheap. They both can make their number, but trying to figure out which one, and they're playing the same role. Same thing with Neto and Ish Smith. I just don't want timeshare. You don't have to take timeshare guys on when you have 22 teams playing. So I'm not interested there. I agree with you on Bryant. I think he's going to get some ownership, especially if Rui sits. He's starting to get decent minutes, but I do think there's a cap there. And the last thing you can do is roster a center that's only going to get 22 minutes. That can just sink you. So it's all about Kuzma for me, really, on the Washington side. I agree on the mispricings on the Pacers. Halliburton looks fantastic. Hield's been terrific. 6'2" for Hield. He's playing with the chip on his shoulder, but he really played hard last night and played a lot. So is that going to be regression? I have a tendency to shy from shooters that are on a back-to-back and just played a ton of minutes. Not that he can't do well, but I think it limits that ceiling a little bit, unless it's Steph Curry. He's a different human being when it's shooting. So I do like Hield, but I'm not positive I want to get there. I think Halliburton might be sneakier because if people are going to look at the price difference and say, hey, Hield's playing the big minutes, let's go there. So I'm going to watch ownership and may dive Halliburton there as a good counterplay from Kuzma on the other side. O'Shea Brissett, I know he sunk a lot of ships last night, but he's only 5'6". He's getting big minutes. And, I think he's a good play again. I love Jalen Smith. If Jalen Smith is starting, I think we're going to get this news, even though it's 30 minutes after lock. I think we'll have it beforehand. I think the misprice on DraftKings is somewhat of a free square. If he's going to start, how do you not play Jalen Smith at 3.9 with the promise that he shows, the aggressiveness? Young players are going to get in foul trouble from time to time, and he fouled out yesterday, but he's not going to be – this is not the interior that he played, yesterday. This is a much less interior offense. So I think Jalen Smith could be the play of the day value-wise on the entire slate. And then, let's just see what other news is there. I'm not interested in the whole Goga, Terry Taylor, Tristan Thompson, all of that nonsense. I just don't want to get involved in that. But I know when they picked up Jalen Smith, it caught my eye because I was shocked that Phoenix gave up on such a young player. But yes, they're log jammed at center with 3 veteran centers. But I think Smith's going to be a player in this league, man. And I think he's a great play today.
Yeah, very active. You love guys that generate a lot of fantasy points in their time out there. You don't have to slow burn it.
And he can shoot the 3.
Yeah.
All right, second 7:30 game. It's the Detroit Pistons at the Boston Celtics. Boston, big favorite here after beating Philadelphia by like 100. Boston's a 12.5-point favorite over the sad sack Pistons. I don't know, man. When I coached, if I had a team blow somebody out that was a good team like they did yesterday, and they have the next night they have a game against a horrible team, I would be like screaming, don't let down, because this is going to be the classic. This game is in the tank. We got it. We'll crush them, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not counting out the fact that this could stay within single digits. And I usually am the first guy to say, I'm not going there because of a blowout, but this game scares me. It is a sandwich type situation for Boston. But anyway, they're 12.5-point favorite, 215.5 total, 101.5 implied for Detroit, 114 for the Boston Celtics. Coming into this game, Detroit's 12-45, Boston red hot, 34-25. Probable for Detroit, Pickett, nobody cares. Jackson and Livers are out. The two question marks for Boston are enormous, though. Marcus Smart and Robert Williams II. So that is going to be a big thing as far as where we go with this game. If those two guys are in or out, it could create some definite ownership shifts. Detroit's on an island game. Again, we know Boston crushed Philly last night, second night of a back-to-back. Pace in this game, Detroit 11, Boston 21, so average. Detroit's defense, terrible, 25th. Boston's second in the league now defensively, and somewhat of a runaway first the last 3 weeks. So I am dying to know what your stance is on this game. I know everybody says, don't predict, blowouts, blah, blah, blah. Do you think this game blows out?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just Boston's on a different planet when it comes to defense right now. Detroit's already one of the worst offenses in all of basketball. Their offensive efficiency is the second worst behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you put essentially the worst offense against the best defense. Can't really expect much. An 11-game slate, I don't really, I don't need to get too cute, right? I don't have to put makeup on, as I say. We'll be getting cute for by playing 7K Sadiq Bey today. So I probably don't see myself on much in Detroit. But you did mention the Celtics. Marcus Smart limped off yesterday. He's questionable now. Didn't play the second half. Derek White filled in for him. By the way, Derek White, for those of you that like plus minus, was a plus minus of plus 41 yesterday in 28 minutes played. So huge. And Derek White is kind of people might initially think that no Marcus Smart, the defense might get worse. Derek White is an elite defender and is probably a little bit more efficient offensively than Marcus Smart. So I don't think it's really a step backward. If anything, it's a lateral. And then, if Robert Williams doesn't play, you might get some more Grant Williams, Daniel Tice minute splits. But it could be one of those situations where on a back-to-back, you give Al Horford a night off of his feet, and maybe Robert Williams can go. And then Williams, of course, is before yesterday was putting together a huge couple of games. Ultimately, I think Derek White would be the best price points per dollar type of attack for me in this game. I'd be a little bit skittish on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Usually I stick them in the back end of my player pool, and I set a rule not to have them both in the same lineup. And I just throw the pair of dice on the table, let it rip. But ultimately, I'm expecting Boston to keep this pace slow, dominate everything, and I don't have a lot of high hopes for the Detroit side. 11-game slate. Got to X out a few games here and there. This could be one of them.
I'm 100% with you, man. I won't spend a lot of time on this game because I just don't like it. Like I said, I think Boston lets down, so you're not going to get peak performances, in my opinion, to pay 9-6 for Tatum or 8-8 for Brown against a lousy Detroit team. I enjoy Derek White as well. I can't believe the Spurs traded him. I mean, he's a pop special. The guy plays both sides of the floor. I don't have any idea why they traded him. I think he's a great pickup. The thing is, what I'm expecting, if Marcus Smart is ruled out, I think Derek White is going to be so ridiculously owned because everybody is just like goo-goo over Derek White, what he means to Boston now, how he's the final piece. You've heard all this stuff. So I think, just from an ownership standpoint, I'm going to be watching that closely because, at 5.8, that is a great price. And if he's starting, it's very tempting. But I don't think he's going to deserve to be, 50% owned or whatever insanity will follow if Smart's out. I'm not crazy about this game at all. The tough part about Detroit, usually when you have a really crappy team, there's one or two guys that are just carrying the load. But guess what? It's just not that way right now. I mean, you've got the return of Grant, so he's doing all right. Sadiq Bey throws in some big games. Their best player, in my opinion, Cade Cunningham, still, getting his rookie feet about him, but has some big games, and then you got some vets like Corey Joseph, Isaiah Stewart has some decent. So it's not, they're sharing the ball. They're trying to grow and build a team there. They're mixing Killian Hayes and Bagley and Diallo in there. So they're just not very good for DFS at this moment, in my opinion. So this game is more than likely going to be a full pass if I cannot get sucked into the vortex known as Derek White.
Yeah, I'm not that stoked to play Derek White in this team if he's sharing minutes with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. At best he's the third guy in terms of scoring, potentially usage, and then there's a chance when Robert Williams clicks, he could be fourth. So if Derek White with the Spurs in several spots starts without DeJounte, showed us pure point guard ability. I don't know that would be the case here. You see Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown bring the ball up court. So if ownership was too aggressive on a 11-game slate, I'd certainly look the other way and hope that we don't get ceiling outcomes out of this 216 total 12-point spread game.
Yeah, if that's what sinks me, so be it. That's just not the game for me. All right, man. Third 7:30 game. Brooklyn Nets, New York Knicks. Poor Brooklyn Nets, man. You talk about tanking. It's unbelievable. 11 or 12 losses in a row. It's nuts. It's the Knicks minus 4.5 at home against Brooklyn. 217.5 total, 106.5 implied for Brooklyn, 111 for the wonderful New York Knicks. Brooklyn comes in 30-27. They were in first in the East at one point. Knicks are 25-33. What a disastrous year for Tibbs. Injury-wise, Durant, Harris, Irving, and Simmons out. Barrett, Noel, and Rose out for the Knicks. Brooklyn comes in with the 10th pace. Knicks, slowest team in the league, so it's always hard in their games to get fired up to roster too many people. It is the first night of a back-to-back for Brooklyn on top of everything else, so fun for them. Island game for the Knicks. Defensively, not bad. Brooklyn's 18th and the Knicks are 13th. So, fairly slow pace because of the Knicks. Not that bad a defense. Teams going in the wrong direction. This game is just such a muddled mess, man. Do you have interest in this game? Do you think it stays close enough? It should with the spread, but who knows? These teams are so bad.
I have a little bit of interest. I think Julius Randle is standing out to me as potentially one of the best plays on the slate.
Wow.
He has put together a huge stretch of upside games. My early projections had him as a top 3 scorer on the entire slate for fantasy points.
Nice.
He's going against a front court that really should not slow him down at all. Drummond's notorious for his size, but defensively, he's kind of a guy you can get behind and score on, and we're not running from anywhere else in his front court, LaMarcus Aldridge, and I don't think James Johnson's going to get enough minutes for me to be too scared. Julius Randle right now live to play 38+ minutes. You look at his last couple games, he's been 40 minutes or greater. Last game with the overtime, but 37+ on the competitive game is a realistic outcome, and he's looking a lot more like last year Julius Randle. And a big boost for him is the absence of RJ Barrett, who could be second on the team in usage and compete for first on the team in minutes. So just that much more opportunity without RJ Barrett and those many minutes. I'm definitely investing in some Julius Randle exposure tonight. Nice. And then Mitchell Robinson is a curious click. He could be a price pivot to maybe Clint Capella at 5,900 on DraftKings. No Nerlens Noel, it looks like. So maybe close to 30 minutes coming his way. And you saw what he can do against a team like the Thunder, the Nets, a team he should be outsizing, and per minute his production is very, very nice. And Quentin Grimes, I guess you can justify him on DK. I'm not as warm and fuzzy on that one, but I think Julius Randle has a real shot here. On the other side, Seth Curry, Patty Mills, one of those New York games, so we don't get Kyrie Irving in the mix here. And both of those guys showed that they could coexist, but Seth Curry was the one I was most intrigued with in his debut for the Nets. 18 shot attempts, 5 assists, and a bunch of boards to boot. He dropped almost 40 fantasy points, so I might be willing to go back to him here and hope that he keeps this game close. We know, the Knicks, as slow of a pace that they run, they do kind of funnel opponents to shoot some threes because they shoot some threes. So Knicks allow a top 10 amount of three points via the three ball. And we know Seth Curry, Patty Mills, those are two guys that are going to score pretty efficiently from three ball. Seth Curry, I think, one of the most accurate shooters in the league over the course of the last couple of years. So I know Seth gets a lot of credit, but Steph's kind of underrated, or Steph gets a lot of credit.
Versa.
Seth, yeah. And then Andre Drummond drew the start, and I didn't know what to do because they do have an embarrassment of riches in a sense in that front court. With Blake Griffin, with LaMarcus Aldridge, with James Johnson, with Darren Sharp, with Nicholas Claxton. Like, there is way too many mouths to feed. And I think what we're going to see is a couple of DNPs here, a couple of rests there in the first night of Steve Nash showing his hand in terms of this rotation. Drummond did play just 24 minutes. Aldridge played 19 minutes. Blake Griffin played 3. It was essentially a couple minutes in the second quarter, nothing else. Daron Sharp played the final minute, so he was probably on pace to be in a DNP, but came in and mopped up with the garbage crew, and then didn't have any Nick Claxton. So I guess if that's going to be the indication here, it's going to be an extremely volatile front court unless we get specific notes that X and Y are out. But Drummond at 6K is just waiting to break a slate. So I don't know. He might just be one of those guys I stuff in the back end of a player pool and have some exposure to. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like this is going to be like a 35-minute Drummond, at least not after night 1. So we'll have to see on that. But yeah, you can give me Julius Randle, and I'll probably be pretty happy about it.
Yeah, no, it's a good take, and I like your fervor over Randle here. I mean, certainly can be a slate breaker, and he has shown an uptick in just effort and consistency here of late. So something flipped the switch for him. So I get that. His price is a little high though. 9.7 on DraftKings is a little intimidating to me, but I do see a path to that. There's a lot of guys. I don't want my night to be sunk on these crappy Nets and Knicks. Sorry, listeners, for any Nets and Knicks fans, but I've watched Patty Mills sink a lineup or two for me recently. He's been terrible. I don't know if he's just gassed or what the deal is, but he has not put a good game together here in a while. Curry's going to be the guy everybody races to. He's the shiny new object, similar to like Derek White. Everybody's going to say, oh man, he's going to keep them in this. He's the guy. He's a fair price. And I get it. 5.7 though, it's not a giveaway free square. And I don't want him gigantically owned. So I'm watching ownership on that. I just don't trust the rest of these guys, Gun. I mean, I know Drummond can break a slate and his points per minute are insane. But, I don't know with LaMarcus Aldridge and James Johnson, they're going to want to play all these guys. They're going to need to be checking Randle. I mean, Edwards can't guard Randle, so they're going to have to play James Johnson some and maybe even Blake, somebody to try to bang on Randle. But what it does is it just mixes a pot of just junk. I don't see any consistency that makes me feel on a cash lineup that I feel good plugging in anybody. Now, I will use Drummond somewhere, maybe GPP wise, because again, he could have a 60-point game. You never know. But all in all, I don't trust the Nets. The Knicks, it's a little bit different here. I could have some exposure here for several reasons. Brooklyn's defensive late has been just a joke. And if you look at their lineup, it's just horrible. And so Quentin Grimes at 4-1, I think, is a decent play. They haven't adjusted his price enough. He's been extremely active. He's been making his number by a lot. And he's also a plus defender. That's where he got the initial start because he can defend. And I think he'll be on Curry. And I know you're not big on the who's guarding who thing, but for me, I think it can make a bit of a shift in, whether they get to 6X or just barely 5X. So it's a difference to me. So, I do like Grimes. I think at that price until they adjust it, he should be the way he's playing mid-5s at this point. He really should, because he's had 3-4 games in a row, where he's smacked his low number. After that, though, I do agree that Randle and then Mitchell Robinson. I think at 5'9", Drummond is a terrible defender. I mean, there's no doubt. And any other interior defense that the Nets use are going to be geared towards Randle. So it could create another game just like the last one was for Mitchell. And at 5'9", a cheap center spot like that, you could get some great, some great numbers, especially the fact that Noel's not there to take any of those minutes. So I'm with you. I think I'll have some Knicks players here, but I am really down on the Nets, and they just look like they're going backwards fast.
Yeah, just remember the Oklahoma City Thunder were able to do 127 points with Josh Giddey and Trey Mann combining for almost 60 real points. So if they can let the Thunder pop, man, I think the on night is possible for these Nets.
That's a great point. Great point. All right, let's go on to the 8 o'clock games. There are 4 of them, Gun. So we got a long ways to go here. I hope everybody's buckling in and getting ready for this one. Toronto Raptors, Minnesota Timberwolves. So we have a tiny spread here. Toronto by 1. Nice total, 229. Good implieds, both sides. 115 for Toronto, 114 for Minnesota. Toronto comes in 31-25, and Minnesota 31-27. So 2 teams with good playoff aspirations. We do have big news that we need from both sides. Enormous news. Fred VanVleet, questionable. Anthony Edwards, questionable. So that changes the entire rotations, usage, etc. So we need that news. If you're going to be looking to focus in or out with these guys, make sure you're setting yourself up for some late swap, because we probably won't have that news at lock, but you have 9 million games to set up some late swap, so it shouldn't be an issue. Really, those are the only 2 guys of substance with any designations. Everybody else is back for these 2 teams, which isn't always the best thing for us in DFS, because what it does is it puts a little usage splits with a lot of people. But statistically speaking here, Toronto is super slow, 29th, second slowest team to the Knicks in the league, and Minnesota second. So massive pace up for Toronto, which rings a huge bell when you see that type of a difference. That certainly is going to allow many more possessions and DFS points ability here for the Raptors. As far as defensively, though, you've got dead middle of the pack here. Toronto 14, Minnesota 16. So they're not bad defensively, but nothing you have to just smash home here. So second night of a back-to-back for Minnesota, and they played a good game yesterday, an intense game. Toronto, it is an island game, so an advantage there. So very interested here. First of all, I guess when you're doing your initial projections, what do you think about the chances of VanVleet and Edwards playing, or are they just 50-50?
I'm going to lean out for both. Edwards didn't play the entire second half yesterday, so hard to fathom him coming back the next night of a back-to-back with the All-Star break impending. And then Fred VanVleet did not go through shoot-around today, so probably a sign that he's closer out than in. So early on, I'd probably brace myself for those 2 to be out. And if that happens, we can certainly sink our teeth into Cat, D-Russ as elevated usage guys, and then even Patrick Beverly a little bit more cheese on his taco, I don't know why, not as you would say, but as some would say. And then if Fred VanVleet doesn't play, we've seen them run a lineup that essentially has Gary Trent and Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Siakam all move up and throw in a Precious Achiuwa or somebody in that front court. Maybe they run that here against the T-Wolves. And if that happens, Gary Trent Jr. 6,100 on DraftKings certainly be somebody I'd be looking at in terms of a real point boost. And then I do believe that the ball handling goes a little bit more into Pascal Siakam's hands, and I'm running a search right now to validate that statement. Yeah,
Siakam. Trent and Siakam should handle the ball the most.
Looks like Siakam has a 27% assist rate in this split without Fred VanVleet, a 28% usage rate. So that 27% assist rate is miles ahead of everyone else. So yeah, you might see him bringing the ball up court a little bit more. And then we love the Raptors because they will give minutes and minutes and minutes and more minutes to their starters. So if you can get 37 to 40 implied minutes of Gary Trent Jr. 6,100 on DraftKings. Pascal Siakam under 10K on both sides against a top 2 pace team and a porous defense with a 230 total. You just throw a blanket over it and hope you get all of the fantasy points. So I'm going to be all over this game. It's one of those spots that VanVleet and Edwards was in. I really wouldn't know what to do, and I expect somebody to pop. But there's several ranges of outcomes. But I do think we can sharpen our knife a little bit and expect no VanVleet, no Edwards, and in that scenario, we definitely have a stronger lean on Siakam, Trent, and probably Karl-Anthony here for me. So I'm gonna like this game a lot. I'm hoping Edwards and VanVleet are out, but like I said, I think there's enough evidence out there to suggest that they seem to be closer to out than in.
I agree, man. In my projections, I have them both out for right now, but again, it would change my lineups dramatically if they were in. So I'm with you. I love this game. This game pops for me as well. I like 3 Toronto guys a ton here. I like Trent at 6-1. I like Anunoby at 6. I like that price in this matchup. I see a real good ceiling game coming from Anunoby. He's one of my favorite plays, and sneaky. He's not going to be high owned. People are going to want to go to the other Toronto guys a lot. So big star around him for me. I agree with you on Siakam completely. The softball was there for you. Absolutely. I think he's not only will he handle the ball, bring it up and things like that. He likes to just keep the ball and back people down and never pass it at times. So if this is a close game like it's expected to be, Cat's not a great defender. They'll probably try to play Vanderbilt on him a little bit, but I think Siakam's going to be a tough play. And at 9-3, I think it's fair. I would rather pay that than the 10K for Towns on the second night of a back-to-back. They have a tendency to not push Towns over the limit, especially when they have an adept backup in Naz Reid, who will probably get a few extra minutes tonight with it being the second night of a back-to-back. So a couple of Raptors for me will definitely be in my lineup and key to the success of it. But as far as running it back on the other side, I really think D'Angelo Russell's the guy. He's 7-4. He didn't really show out completely like he could have last night. I think, the fact that if he is out from the very beginning, it always produces more usage for Russell. He's going to get more shots up. And this could be a real key game for me. I like the line and I like the setup. I think this is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, full agreement here. I also don't hate Patrick Beverley with his new contract campaign. Per minute, it's been pretty efficient.
Yeah, no doubt. And his price is always good. All right, the another 8 o'clock game here, San Antonio Spurs at the Oklahoma City Thunder, your favorite team, the Thunder. San Antonio -8, 218.5 total, 113.25 implied for Spurs, 105.25 for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Spurs come in 22-36, the Thunder 18-39. We have a couple of designations here. It looks like Trey Jones will be out for the Spurs. He's doubtful, but I've got him out. Then we do have a bunch of guys out for the Thunder. Dort, SGA, Jerome, Muscala, JRE, and Kenrich Williams. So that's why people have been going to some of the Thunder players and having some success, because their bench is actually tightened down a little bit and they're getting some more minutes from people. So we'll see how that affects things in what you think on this one, Gun. But as far as statistically, we've got Spurs playing pretty quick at 7th, Thunder 20th. Defensively, we've got San Antonio 19th in the league. The Thunder, the reason they've stayed in some games, they are 11th, and they're scrappy defensively. So what do you think? This is going to be a real low under the radar kind of game. Do you have any interest here?
Actually, the Thunder are coming in as the highest owned team on the slate right now, and it's because of how short they are.
Right.
Lou Dort, SGA, that in itself represents two of their starters, 30 to 35 minutes there, and then some of their supplementary plays that have been stepping up in the absence of Dort, SGA. Guy like Ty Jerome, 19 minutes in that last game. Kenrich Williams, a guy that has been soaking up a significant amount of minutes in that Knicks game. Kenrich Williams saw 27 minutes of action. So maybe take 5 minutes away from overtime, but there are they're running out of bodies to play minutes. So in DFS, we got that saying minutes equal money. And this is a Thunder team that's going to give you a lot of minutes at not so much money. I believe I saw Aaron Wiggins was the highest owned player on the slate right now. And he's almost bare bones min price on FanDuel. He is bare bones min price on DraftKings. And he could play 35 plus minutes here. And, 3K, you ain't got to do a whole lot. And against the San Antonio Spurs, you mentioned it's a pace up spot for them. And then the Spurs defense takes a little bit of a hit without Derek White in this lineup. So I don't have a whole lot of high expectations for the Thunder's offensive prowess, but minutes are minutes, and we're going to get a lot of minutes at a pretty cheap price here. So I do like it. I do understand why ownership is on Wiggins like the way it is right now. And Trey Mann just showed us that he could drop 30 real points. And then Josh Giddey, if he's going to be off of this minute restriction, they gave him a couple games of 30 minutes. And then the last 2 games, he exceeded that 30 minutes. I think Giddey without SGA, without Dort against the Spurs team that has bled fantasy points to opposing guards, and Giddey's got kind of a quasi DeJounte Murray type of a game where he just stuffs the stat sheet. Yeah, I'm gonna be interested in Giddey. It feels like it's a hard price to pay for, but 40 plus fantasy points is a very reasonable range of outcomes. Maybe the $7,200 price point on FanDuel, a little bit more welcoming. And then Darius Baisley, big minutes for him the last couple of games. That front court depleted. Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Mike Muscala out. They DFA'd or fired, waived, whatever you call it, Diakite. And it's essentially just Roby, Derek Favors, Baisley, and Pakusevsky. And we don't expect big minutes out of Favors more often than not. So Baisley's been a guy that's been filling a lot of the minutes. And I probably expect Darius Baisley to, if not lead the team in minutes, be a top 2, top 3 minute guy, and probably play 35 plus minutes. And per minute, he's just been kind of getting it done. 40 fantasy points in 3 straight games. I do think, we take a couple of fantasy points off of him from that last game, but against the Spurs, if it's going to be a pace up spot with 35 plus minutes, I think Baisley, Giddey make a lot of sense. Trey Mann makes sense. And then Aaron Wiggs at that price, unfortunately, is going to make a lot of sense as well. So it's going to be one of those type of situations where you didn't wake up today to play some Thunder, but sometimes the price, the minutes, and the math, the algorithm, the robots do the thinking for you, and they'll profile
beauty of DFS, right?
Exactly. And then if I'm going to be invested in the Thunder, man, DeJounte Murray without Derek White, he's and we are back in OKC, man. He's reminding me a lot of vintage Russell Westbrook in terms of his game logs, day-to-day, triple-double threat every time he touches the court. So 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 fantasy points. Certainly something that's in his wheelhouse. I've got him for about 50 right now. And in my early run projections, that came in as a top 5 fantasy projection on the slate. We're talking names like Jokic, Julius Randle, Trae Young, LeBron James. And then there's DeJounte Murray, and he's kind of earned his keep at this price. The thing is, we're not getting a bargain on him, but the bigger the slate, the more the value, the easier it is to go get these raw point juggernauts. And maybe it won't be that hard to get DeJounte Murray, especially with a positively correlated Aaron Wiggins in the same game, offsetting it at essentially mid price. So, there are some clicks to like. I definitely wish we could get these Thunder minutes at a lot less ownership, though.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be overowned, but there's no denying some of the value there. I'm with you completely. I mean, let's face it, Aaron Wiggins, he's not a bad ball player either. He's got some game, and he's going to get the minutes. I mean, he's almost to the point of calling him a free square, don't you think?
It's
hard to, but yeah.
If you think he can push 30, then his probability of being optimal, especially in a multi-position eligibility site like like DraftKings is pretty doggone high. And
it is. I think the money minute versus equals minutes deal. I mean, he can back into 9x here at a 3K min price. So yeah, I think though what a lot of people are going to do, and you can call me crazy here, but a lot of people are going to immediately think exactly what you said. The psychology of I'm going to put DeJounte Murray and Aaron Wiggins in my lineup. That equals it out, and it's not as painful paying that big price for Murray. Mm-hmm. Murray is fantastic. I love him, but I don't know if I can go 11K in a game like this. I mean, it's a paced down game for them. Thunder don't play super fast. I think Murray's going to still be owned pretty decently, even at that big fat number, just because of that psychological aspect of being able to take Wiggins at the min on the other side. So I'm looking more as this is my way to get pay up on at least two guys, maybe even a mid price on a third by playing a guy I think is decent here, Devin Vassell at only 5K. He's really taken over the starter's role with Derek White leaving. And he's volatile. It's a pop team, etc. But it is an island game for them. And I think that, he could have a decent showing. And he's cheap. He's the one guy I'm looking at. And then on the Thunder side, the question is, do you pay up for Giddey? Certainly has the potential to smash the slate, but he is going to get DeJounte Murray defense. I think DeJounte is a first or second team all defensive player in this league. So I don't know. I think Trey Mann has now shown over several games that he's the real deal. And with no Ty Jerome on his heels trying to steal some minutes at 4-9, I think Mann could be the great play. And then Wiggins maybe is a free square. I do agree with you on Bazley. He is the one interior guy that I've liked all season for the Thunder. He's their best interior player by far. So, man, I could stack up some value with like a Vassell at 5, a Mann at 4-9, a Wiggins at 3, and just have Fat City on salary for the other buy-up guys. Crazy?
No, I don't think that would be a contrarian or super contrarian approach either, at least on the Thunder side. I show Aaron Wiggins at 45 to 50% ownership right now on DraftKings.
Yeah, I don't know how you get away from it. I mean, literally, it's gonna be tough to get away from. And they're short staffed. So yeah, key game on the slate, even though it's people Spurs, Thunder. They're not going to look at it first, but then when they see ownership and see the value here, it's just undeniable.
Yeah.
All right, Chief. Believe it or not, we have 2 more 8:00 games left. Not only more games from there. This one's got a lot of interest too. Sacramento at Chicago. Chicago's only favored by 5, which is a small number. 232.5. 113.75 for Sacramento, 118.75 for the wonderful team of the Chicago Bulls. Sacramento comes in 22-37. Chicago 16 games over 500, 37-21. Questionable tag on Jeremy Lamb. We know Terrence Davis is out with wrist surgery. The only questionable tag on the Chicago side is Javonte Green. He did play the other day after a questionable tag, so we'll see where he goes, but he does have a lingering injury. We know Ball, Caruso, Levine, and Williams are out. So this game takes on a little bit of a different twist with, again, the second time a low spread. I was expecting 8, 8.5, and it's 5. So you got to explain that one to me, Gun. But Sacramento comes in with the 8th fastest pace, Chicago 17th. Defensively, Sacramento second worst in the league at 29th, and you've got Chicago at 20th. So even though everybody thinks they're a good defensive team, they're not that great defensively. So this game could have some teeth to it. But first of all, did you expect a 5-point spread here?
No, but the anchors of their defense being Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, those guys being out definitely are a significant impact. Levine not as much, but yeah, they've been involved with a lot of.
But those dudes have been out for a month, so you would think that would have adjusted.
Dosunmu is their last like great on-ball defender. I just think any team that puts 35 minutes on their starters, the gas tank's not going to last that long. So definitely could see some holes. And then their front court is so small that DeRozan can't guard a lot of these power forwards he's going up against, and Javonte Green as well. So I definitely think that's taking a hit to their defense.
That makes sense. What do you like here?
So on the Kings side, with Sabonis and Darren Fox being the new look 1-2 punch for the Sacramento team, Fox has sustained a 34% usage rate, while Sabonis has a 26% usage rate, a 30+% defense rebound rate, and a 22% assist rate. So you could put those two together for over a fantasy point per minute, and in Sabonis's case, over a 1.2 fantasy points per minute. And the thing with Fox is he's going to be a pure scoring point guard. He doesn't dish as well. We've seen Sabonis do more facilitating, but 20+ shot attempts for De'Aaron Fox is certainly a realistic range of outcomes for him. 18, 21, 20, 22 shot attempts in his last couple of games. So I don't mind looking his way. I just hate that he's becoming more scoring dependent than not. I need some more peripherals to feel like I'm getting a great deal on an 11-game slate. Sabonis I am interested in. This is a guy that could be a 10K plus player. I do have some uncomfortable feelings about the Kings and in their front court rotation, the way they've treated all year. They did trade away, Marvin Bagley, Tristan Thompson to help us feel a little bit better. And I don't expect the team to go trade for a guy like Sabonis not to play him. So I'm going to plant, 34 minutes on the projection. That's going to give me over 45 fantasy points on FanDuel. So something I can get behind. The Bulls side, a little bit more intriguing to me because I have some sample size on this split. Without Levine, without Lonzo Ball, without Alex Caruso. We know DeMar DeRozan, he's going to score all of the real points, most of them in the fourth quarter. And then Vucevic is also going to contribute pretty mightily. And he has been somebody that I've been leaning on quite a bit in this split, over $1.25 fantasy point per minute. Last couple outings for him, 50+ fantasy points in games without Zach LaVine, and we've seen him score as much as 70 fantasy points his last 6 or 7 games. So Sacramento, the season stats may be a little bit misleading because of them shaking up their roster a little bit, but I still don't project them to be elite defensively. And this Vegas total over 230, I'm going to have to get guys that are projected to be 35-minute guys at almost 30% usage rate. So Vooch and DeRozan certainly in the mix for me. Dosunmu fouled out in that last outing, had a horrendous start. I was sweating his
Tell
props.
me about it.
But then in that second quarter, he started breathing some life into his minutes here, and we know he has the ability to be flirting with 10 assists and pick up some defensive peripherals. So if he stays out of foul trouble here, he's live to play up to 40 minutes, and minutes equal money. You're gonna get 6K. 40 minutes and a 232 total. I'm going to have to be an investor in that. And another thing going against Dosunmu in that game was Kobe White caught fire early on, could not miss, ended up cooling off a little bit in the second half, but took away some of that first half production. And he's also been doing a little bit of the ball handling, but I definitely will have a lot of Bulls scattered into my exposure tonight. And I think I'll probably rank them, Vooch and DeRozan up there, and then I kind of spin the wheel on Dosunmu and White. I might get a little bit more Dosunmu just because his peripherals game to game probably going to be a little bit higher than Kobe White. But when Kobe White catches fire, he catches fire. Sacramento on the season have been really bad at guarding points in the paint. Vucevic is a guy that can stretch the floor, but he can get points in the paint as well. And Sabonis, even when he was with Indiana, not somebody I was running from. So I do like this game. I do like this total. A little bit pricier to game stack versus some of the earlier games we talked about in terms of game stacking, like the Pacers game, the Thunder game. But certainly some merit in doing so.
I think it's a great call there. And for me, I'm going to immediately be burning some of that cash that salary I saved in the Spurs Thunder game, because I do like some pay ups here with you. I think I'm just amazed at how DeMar DeRozan has been playing. I mean, this is the best I think he's ever played in his career, and he's getting pretty old. So, I mean, he's in the MVP conversation, way behind, I know, Embiid and the Joker, but at least he's in the conversation. When have you ever been able to say that about DeMar DeRozan at the All-Star break? So he has been fantastic. He is very expensive, but he could just absolutely destroy again here. This is an island game for them. And I'm very tempted because I think because of that price, I don't think his ownership is going to be very high. And, 65, 68 is not out of the question in a high scoring, higher pace game here. So I do like DeRozan. I agree with you. I like Dosunmu better than White. That last game for Dosunmu, you could sort of scratch. It was a nightmare game for the reasons you said, foul trouble. White was chucking. And I think Dosunmu is fact that he's cheaper than White is a little surprising to me because he'll get you some stocks. And he's got to be on the floor to defend De'Aaron Fox. He's the guy that's going to have to keep him in check. So Dosunmu, DeRozan are the guys for me on that side. I know Vuk's tough and been playing great. And, you can't really go DeRozan and Vuk here. So you got to make a decision. But I do agree with you. Vuk's a nice play. I like Sabonis. I think he has a chip on his shoulder. Everybody's still talking that they got fleeced. And we've talked about this several times, but it's worth mentioning because I think it's still resonating with Sabonis. Everybody says, how do you give up Halliburton? Well, Sabonis, as you read his numbers, he's a tremendous player. He's a great rebounder. He's one of the best passers, probably second in the league to the Joker as far as passing big men. And he could score the ball. So I love the fact that he's south of 9K. And if he stays in the 8s, he's a guy that I'm going to plug in because I don't see how he doesn't get to his number here with the minutes he's going to play. Vuk's not a good defender. Let's face it. He's a great offensive player, but he's just very, average defensively. So it could be a big spend for me here if I do go DeRozan, Sabonis. But Dosunmu, I have a lot of interest in as well. And then I think I'm going to shy from Fox just because, I think Dosunmu is one of the best perimeter young defenders in the league. And if it's impossible to slow down Fox completely because he's so fast. But at least if he, has him put on the brakes a little bit, I think that might be a good way to go. Make sense?
Yeah, and a little extra nugget here. Dante DiVincenzo recently acquired by the Kings. He had a 5-steal game against Brooklyn. Obviously, 5 still a little bit anomalic, but we do know that per minute he can kind of produce. He's under 4K. Davion Mitchell just got downgraded to questionable with a hand, and that would probably boost some expected minutes for DiVincenzo, and maybe he can curtain call this 27. Also, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, doubtful.
Okay, very good. If DiVincenzo somehow gets the start, I'm immediately very interested. I think he's a better player than Justin Holiday. I think it's a matter of time before he takes that position. So let's keep an eye on that because if DiVincenzo gets a starting spot at 3.9, it's a steal. And if he's starting regularly, that price will be over 5K before he can blink. So that's it's a good point there. So much appreciated. Well, we're finally to the last 8 o'clock game, Gun. It's the Portland Trail Blazers and Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis minus 11.5, 228.5 total, 108.5 implied for Portland. A fat 120 for the Grizz. You got to love when you get that 120 number in there. Portland's 24-34, Grizzlies 41-18. Nobody saw that coming to that extent at the beginning of the year. It is the second night of a back-to-back, though. And Mr. Ja Morant, I don't know if you've heard of him, Gun, but that dude is questionable. So that shakes the bucket there. Pons and Tillman questionable. We know Brooks has been out. For Portland, it's the guys out. Bledsoe, Johnson, Lillard, Luzada. I've set him out every day for whatever team he's traded to. It doesn't matter. He's always out. And Smith are also out. So a little thinner bench there than they've had in the past. Could change some things in this game. Portland's 19th in pace. Memphis is 3rd. So, they are pushing it up and down. And they're one of the few teams in the league that are in the top 10, both in pace and defense. That's a hard thing to do in the NBA. Memphis is 7th, but Portland is a lousy 27th and giving up points in bunches. That's why you have this 120 total implied for Memphis. But again, I think that number is assuming Ja's going to play. So the first big question for you is, do you have Ja in or out in your initial projections? And does this game register for you as a key play game?
So I projected Ja to be in for now,
Okay.
just to be safe. If he can't go with Tyus Jones, we'd run that right back. But right now, I'm expecting Ja to be in, but you never know.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Tyus was out of his stinking mind last night, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was 80% owned, and 20% of people paid to rake. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right. So what do you think? Is anybody playable on Portland with the shorter bench now? Or are you a Josh Hart guy? He looks so good lately, man.
So, man, Memphis it's not quite on the Boston levels, but defensively they're a little bit unsung, man. They've put together a really good, scrappy defense, and I actually think that their defense is better without Ja Morant.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
So if Ja Morant was out, I certainly wouldn't have one spot that I thought was super exploitable. I do think Josh Hart's talented enough at 6,400. He can go in there and get you a chip in a chair for 40 fantasy points. And then Justice Winslow, a little bit of revenge game flavor. He has been putting together some really big games for them. So like if they landed in my player pool, I certainly wouldn't hate life, I guess, in pre and post flop, maybe post flop, but pre flop it would be justifiable. But for the most part, I'm not running to get exposure to the Blazer side. If Ja Morant was in, I would be a little bit more open to Anthony Simons. He has shown a little bit of upside, and I think the FanDuel side is a little bit more comfortable, 6,900 versus 7,900. But I'm not tier oneing the Blazers. And then on the Grizzlies side, depending on Ja Morant, if Ja Morant's out, obviously we're going right back to Tyus Jones, no ifs, ands, or buts. Might be a lock button or a lock washer, right? Huh?
Hey, lock washer, man. You got it. You got it.
And then Jaren Jackson Jr. I would have a lot of interest in as well. And then I definitely would be interested in Desmond Bane. Kind of underwhelmed me yesterday with his end result.
He was not good yesterday. I had him, and I was not a happy camper.
Yeah.
What happened? Did you watch any of that game?
Yeah, Tyus Jones was doing a lot of the real scoring, which is not what I expect from Tyus Jones. He had like 27, 30 points, something like that.
Yeah, out of his mind.
And Desmond Bane couldn't stay out of foul trouble. He actually ended up fouling out in 30 minutes. Yeah. So I don't know. Typically, Desmond Bane's usage rate is going to be top 2 without Ja Morant. Right. Sometimes top 2 with Ja Morant. So I have hope. I can forget, right? That goldfish memory. I think the range of outcomes for 30 plus fantasy points is here. I would say on DraftKings, we talked about Fred VanVleet potentially not playing tonight. Didn't go through shoot around. 6,100 Gary Trent would probably just soak up a lot of that area in ownership for me. It'd be $300 cheaper than Desmond Bane, so maybe I don't run it back. But it wouldn't be like a overreaction to last night. I would just kind of prefer Trent at that area if I had to choose.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. None of the bigs from the Grizz give you any action.
Again, if Ja Morant's out, I'm in on Jaren Jackson. I haven't been playing Steven Adams. It feels like every time I look up, he's flirting with a triple-double somehow.
I don't know what. Yeah, he's gotten the fountain of youth lately. I mean, he's put some big games up there.
Yeah. But yeah, I probably don't, put it into action. But what are you gonna do?
And as soon as you play Adams, it's going to be one of his 20-minute games if 14 DFS points. But I'm with you, man. You read my mind on Portland. The two guys that I have interest in are Hart and Winslow. Just a little revenge game for Winslow, but he's no joke now. 6K on DraftKings. What the heck? It was much more fun to play Winslow at 3-3 the other day. But Josh Hart at 6'9" is still fair. I think he's a leader. I really am impressed with his level of play. I think he's the best play for me on the Portland side at that price because it saves you $1,000 from Simons. But I'm with you on Bane. I mean, I'm going to go back to the well probably tonight. I think 6'4" is just too cheap. A lot of times he is the second option to Ja. And if Ja's out, Tyus Jones is a great guy to run back at his price, but he's not going to throw that kind of point scoring up that he did yesterday. So Bane's going to be a really strong play for me if Jaw sits. If Jaw plays, then I'll probably back off at just like you with a Gary Trent or someone at that position to fill that role. But I am thinking this game has a great potential to blow out. And I know, go ahead and yell at your screen or your phone or your computer, wherever you're watching this. Don't let people always have a heart attack when I predict blowouts. And I'm a game scripter, man, and that's just the way I do it with DFS. And I just think Memphis smacks them. Whether or not Ja plays is not that big of a difference to me. Portland is on the downslide. They're playing all this, different guys, minutes, and new combinations and youngsters. Memphis is a well-oiled machine right now, whether Ja's in there or not. If you remember earlier in the season, they ripped off 6 or 7 wins in a row when Ja was out. So, they have a good put-together team. I think Coach Jenkins is the most underrated coach in the league, but people are starting to notice him now. And they're just a machine out there. They have a good rotation. And I see this as being a 20-point game where you can lose some minutes at the end. So I'm going to tread very lightly in this one, Gun.
Yeah, I think that's a fair approach.
All right, we have 3 games left. We're getting there, man. 9 and 2 10-o'clockers. So now we're getting to this late night sweat area where it's the real deal. We have good numbers here total-wise for these 3 games. So we'll see what happens. We've got the Houston Rockets at the Phoenix Suns. So people say, what? Hey, coach, blowout city. Well, maybe. Phoenix is favored by 15.5 already. It's a 234.5 total, 109.5 for Houston. Would you believe 125 implied for Phoenix? That is a number that is definitely eye-grabbing. Houston 15-41. Phoenix is the best team in the league, and I'll argue that with anybody. They're 47-10. For Houston, Garuba and John Wall out. Why do I say that every day and waste those 4 seconds of my life? For Phoenix, Kaminsky, Payne, Saric, and Shamet remain out. So you've got Houston on the first night of a back-to-back, Gun. You have Phoenix on the second night of a back-to-back. So blowout potential, guys sitting potential, all of this rolled into this question mark here, but a big fat total overall. You have Houston, the 5th fastest team, Phoenix, the 6th. So they combine for the best pace on the entire slate. Defensively, we all thrive and know that Houston's the worst in the league. They're 30th, so that is always fun. But Phoenix is 3rd, and they have been consistently in that top 5 all year. So for me, this was the toughest game. I spent the most time looking on this game because I just couldn't figure out what the hell to do. Is it going to blow out? Is there going to be a minute's difference for some of these Phoenix guys on the second night? What are you doing with this game, Gun? Because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think I'll attack this game first half on some prop betting, and then for the most part, I might be out on this game for DFS and hope that it does get lopsided.
Okay.
Maybe Phoenix has not really rested Chris Paul. They really haven't had an opportunity to because they've had no Cameron Payne and no Landry Shamet. But if there was a shot to get the old man extended rest into the All-Star break, could be here. That's what I would do. But let Chris Paul, Devin Booker go out there, do the thing. But for the most part, I think I'm going to stay away and hope for the best. Like I said, I'd probably prop hunt this game, but that 15-point spread is that's a real problem.
I'm with you, and this we can save time all the way around here. I mean, if you don't give Chris Paul a little rest in this game, and Monty Williams is the sharpest, one of the 3 or 4 sharpest coaches in the league, I just don't see him paying that 9.2 price, or even Booker at 8.7. I don't feel comfortable going there. Could get a lot of minutes. You might score with Cam Johnson at 4-1 or Torrey Craig at 4-3 or one of those guys off the bench too. So I doubt I'm going to have any exposure to this game at all. Way too volatile. If you want to take a few shots for GPP wise, if it does stay close, there are certainly some plays that you can come up with, but I don't want any exposure to this game, Gun. It's that simple.
Yeah, I agree.
Two 10 o'clock games, double late night sweat. Get this ready. Utah Jazz, LA Lakers, Utah by 5.5, 226.5 total. 116 implied for Utah, 110.5 for the Los Angeles Lakers. The Jazz come in 36-21, Lakers 26-31. Rudy Gay is out for Utah. We have a questionable tag on LeBron James and a probable tag on Anthony Davis. Carmelo Anthony, Avery Bradley, Kendrick Nunn out. So, interesting game. Certainly going to grab some viewership and some usage along the way. You've got the Utah Jazz 18th in pace, Lakers 4th. We know they push the ball. Utah 9th defensively. Lakers are 15th, so at least they're playing better defense. But, man, this game has so many question marks on what's going to happen. Is LeBron playing? What's the deal here? So what is this become a key game for you, or is this another a little bit of fearfulness to what could happen? Because that's how I feel.
Yeah, they say there's multiple ways to skin a cat, and on this slate, I'm hoping this isn't the most optimal way. So I'll probably be underweight. I'll probably spin the wheel on some tertiary ownership on Westbrook, LeBron, AD, but not big ownership there. The Jazz getting Rudy Gobert back definitely beefens their front court defense and their overall defense, and this has been a really good offense. The Lakers keep getting, I don't want to say over-respected, but they keep getting over-respected by the sports books and a lot of these spreads that if these were three different names in this Lakers lineup, they probably are more than a 5.5 point underdog based on the advanced metrics. As the metrics tell us, the Jazz are probably the best offense in the league in terms of offensive efficiency. And with Rudy Gobert, their defensive efficiency gets even better. And the Lakers have just not been that dude. You're not that guy, pal. They have not been good on offense. So I'm not having high hopes for the Lakers here. In games that do stay close, LeBron James tends to put the team on his back here. He probably has a date with Royce O'Neal, but that's not going to be enough to get me away from the king and hope that he can put up some big fantasy points here late in the night as a potential late night hammer, but no front end, no tier ones or tier twos from the Lakers for me. And then on the Jazz side, I wish Donovan Mitchell was a tad bit cheaper. I feel a little bit better, but I think he's the guy that probably drops 20 to 30 real points here, a couple peripherals to boot. Gobert, I'm not sold on him playing deep minutes just yet. Second appearance since coming back. Houston game was so lopsided that he only had to play 22 minutes, and I kind of speculated in that game with so much time off. I think it was like 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks. I didn't think he would go straight into like 35 minutes of action. And that's kind of how I feel again today with Whiteside and Azubike, probably chopping off 25 minutes between the two and then Gobert picking up the scraps. So I don't have a lot of tier ones or tier twos in the Utah side either. But I probably want to get some exposure to Donovan Mitchell just to say I did. And then Bojan under 6K if this game did kind of stay scrappy. There's an outcome where he drops 30 fantasy points, but again, that would be a bottom end of the player pool thing. So Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James seem the most appealing to me. And then the Utah Jazz, I mentioned they are one of the best offenses in terms of efficiency. What they do is they lead the team in points via the three ball. And if the opposing team has to play from behind and has to play catch up, they're going to be forced to chuck threes as well. And Malik Monk is easily the best option for the Lakers if they start needing to play catch up. I know Talen Horton-Tucker had a big game lately, but he's been largely inefficient. Malik Monk, somebody I can lean on a little bit longer, a little bit stronger if he stays out of foul trouble. Got in foul trouble against Curry and Clay. It happens. But if he's going to play 30 minutes, I think at under 6K, maybe a couple shots of him. But generally, I'll say if I had none of this game on 11-game slate, I don't think I would feel too much stress. I feel like I'm getting more exposure to this game just for the old school late night hammer narrative. But if you're in bed, coach, you might be. Who cares?
Not me, man. As we were talking before the pod, I'm not a guy that grabs much sleep. I'm catching all these games, and I'm in Discord with our entire members probably till 1:32 in the morning, and I'm back at it at 6:30, 6:45. I'm lucky I don't have to get much sleep, so I get a chance to watch a lot of these games, and I am interested in this game just because of the dynamic, the way it's playing out for the Lakers. So I'll tell you one guy I do want to get to. You mentioned him and you like him a bit too, is Donovan Mitchell. I know 9K is a little scary, but I think the matchup is good for him, and he's such a clutch player, and he's such the go-to guy in the fourth quarter. It's ridiculous. And if this game stays close, like Vegas thinks it will, I think that's still a fair enough price, and it's a nice bullet to have in the gun here for the late game if you really need to fire somebody that can throw a big number up on the board. So I'm not worried about the fact that Gobert's back. I think that actually helps Mitchell in a lot of ways, and you'll see some of the statistics that show that, because Gobert is somewhat of an invisible player offensively. He always has been, other than some of those lobs he'll catch from Mitchell and Conley and Clarkson. But other than that, he really just creates a little bit better space and opens it up a little bit better for Mitchell. And I like him in this matchup. So I know I say it, I'm using my salary for the Thunder savings game. I think it's gone by now, but I'm still trying to use that money. And Mitchell's one of my go-to guys here. Lakers, I just need to see the news. If LeBron plays, I have no interest in the game. Way too pricey for Westbrook, James, and Davis together, in my opinion. If James sits, I like the value play of either a Malik Monk at 5.7 or a THT at 4.3, just as a last man in value guy that can balance, the salary hit by going with Mitchell on the other side. So Mitchell, I know you're going to think I'm crazy here, but Mitchell is my lock washer of the day. So I think Donovan shows up for this one. It's in LA. He's a primetime guy. He seems to get better with the bigger the spotlight. So that's where I'm going in that one.
And also, players, they know when they're playing LeBron James, man. They know when they're on the national spotlight. They like to show out. So I don't think it's crazy to be on some Donovan Mitchell tonight.
And I hope the ownership stays a little lower because of that 9K tag. As stupid as it is, even if he was 8-9, that just to the eye, you say, okay. But 9, people start getting scared, Yeah,
I call that the $9.99 versus $10.
Exactly. Join $9.99, Coach Talk and Run DFS.
But $10, no, too much. $9.99. All right, I can get in there.
Exactly. Speaking of that, just a couple of real quick things, and then we're going to attack this last 10 o'clock game. If you want to join us here, we have an awesome community. It's dfscoachtalk.com. We have a Luka special right now, Gun. We rolled it out. It's $77. You're full member, everything we've got until April 1st. A lot of people jumping on that. It allows me to put all the GIFs of Luka up all the time. Dirk loves it. He's loving that. So if you want to join, check us out. You can always catch us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Gun, where can they find you on Twitter?
Twitter.com/Gundacker, man. I don't know how I got that handle, but I did.
Nice. Very nice. Check that out. And, check out Gun's live streams. I know you do live streams Monday through Friday, I believe, right to 2:30 Eastern. Is that correct? Or West? Yeah.
So 1 p.m. Central today for the prop show, 2 p.m. Central for the DFS show. That's, like almost 3 hours of straight marathon streaming. It's a grind.
It's fantastic, man. I got you on in the background every day. Your bag alerts and Jokic's and yours and everything, man. I'm a big fan as well. So, and if we start some live streaming, which we're looking to do here at Coach Talk, it's going to be later in the afternoon. So hopefully you get those live streams of Gun and then a little bit of Coach Talk as well. But we'll still continue with our pods. and posted them around lunchtime so people can listen at their leisure. So we'd love to have you join us. Check us out. If you're watching right now and you enjoy these collaborations with Gun and I on YouTube, give us a quick thumbs up, subscribe, give us a little comment. And, if you want us to continue these, we'll continue working on them. I think it gives us both insight and helps everybody build better lineups. All right, last game on the slate, 10 o'clock, Denver Nuggets, Golden State Warriors. Golden State minus 5.5. It's a 224.5 total. 109.5 implied for the Denver Nuggets, 115 for the Golden State Warriors. Denver comes in 32-25, Golden State 42-16. Monte Morris, questionable. He's missed the last few games, so not sure he'll be back. Zeke Naji, also questionable. Canchar, Murray, and Porter already ruled out. For Golden State, 3 guys out. Still no Draymond Green. Iggy's still out, and Weissman is still out. He's been out all season. So interesting matchup here. We've got pace 24 for Denver, Golden State 13. So mixed together for average. Denver's somewhat in the middle of the pack, a little bit below at 17th. And somehow, some way, Golden State, even without Draymond for an extended period of time, have still stayed the most defensive efficient team in the NBA, which is super, super interesting. So what do you think about this game, Gun? Is this gonna be a Joker kind of night for you?
He's in the rotation, 11.3 on FanDuel, 12.4K on DraftKings. Early on, I have him leading the slate in fantasy points by about 2 fantasy points. I tighten the screws on that all day, right? These are live projections based on the news, based on other games. But Jokic, if you're going to keep this game competitive, 5.5-point spread kind of suggests it could and should be. Jokic is going to have a big part of that. And yeah, the Warriors have been pretty solid on defense, but where they have been lacking is in that front court. We've seen centers, the trains are coming, right? That's the Jokic train. Exactly. We've seen centers thrive against the Warriors. We've seen big block games, big rebound games, more so the rebounding. And Jokic is a big rebounder, averaging almost 14 rebounds a game on the season. So definitely is a Jokic spot for me. How much exposure? I don't know, maybe 25-30%. We'll see. Another one of those late night hammer candidates. And then we run it back with a little bit of Steph and maybe a little bit of Andrew Wiggins around 6K. I'm looking for 30 plus fantasy points. Jonathan Kuminga, I believe I just read, has been a reserve selected for the Rising Stars. This is what I saw. So maybe they have some fun with that. The Warriors team love supporting each other, so they might noogie him into a solid game of 4,500. But I think Steph and Jokic are the bulk of my interest in this one. Klay Thompson's on the verge of being clicked on here and there at this price. Getting to 30 minutes, I like him a little bit more at home, get that live energy. But again, I talked about the Thomas Bryant effect, man. Paying for a minutes limit on an 11-game slate feels like I might be setting myself up for failure. So I may not put that into action. Maybe I just shop his props. But Curry and Jokic both have the ability to be top scorers on the slate. So I want some exposure to them in multi-entry.
I agree. I mean, I think the Joker is the best pay-up option on the slate. I know he's expensive, but, that's the guy to go to, in my opinion. I think every model he's showing is the highest DFS player on the slate points wise. And let's face it, Golden State without Draymond Green, who's probably was going to be, still may be the NBA Defensive Player of the Year. When you take that interior defender away, even though he's not that big, he's phenomenal defensively. And you remove him and put in a youngster like Kuminga, of course you're going to have some downfall. Looney does the best he can for what he's got. He gets the most out of his abilities of just about anybody in the league because he's not that talented. He can't jump. He's not real quick, but he gets it done okay. But this is just a beautiful matchup for the Joker. I think the game stays pretty close. Certainly he's got to be number one on the list for pay up. I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to have him in that late game. No question about it. Not really interested in anybody else on the Denver side, though. I mean, it's been like that a lot this year. You just get some inconsistent games from Barton. He can be great, but the whole thing with Green and Gordon and Morris, and Highland and Rivers and Forbes and Jermichael Green and Cousins now and Campazzo. It's too dangerous for me, and I'm concerned about rotations there. So Joker or bust like usual for me with Denver. On the Warriors side, I agree. I like Kuminga a bit personally. 4-5 is too cheap. He's getting good minutes and he's producing. Now, I will say this, though. This is my only concern. I think Aaron Gordon is a terrific defender of the 3 and 4 position, and he'll probably go on Wiggins, I'm hoping. If he does go on Wiggins, which is not for sure, he might go on Kuminga, and I'm going to do as much diving in before I make these rosters on this, because if Gordon guards Wiggins, I love Kuminga. If Gordon guards Kuminga, I'm probably going to fade him. And I know you don't like that scenario, but that's just important to me because I want to see where he's going to attack it. But I do like the narrative of Curry and even Thompson a little bit, of feeding Kuminga a little extra, giving him the, being in that Rising Stars on Friday. It's a lot of good mojo going his way. So I think he's a good play. I'm not as afraid of Klay Thompson anymore. I think 6'6" is still too cheap. I think he's going to play 30, 33 minutes. And, he gets up 4 shots. If you get up to get a drink of water, you come back, he has 4 3 attempts. So I'm okay with Klay at that lower mid-level price. And he may make a lineup or two of mine as well. That is it. Any other NBA knowledge to rain upon us, sir?
No, I was gonna say Aaron Gordon is so good defensively that they usually will stick him on the opposing guards. So it wouldn't be crazy to see Aaron Gordon switch between Curry and Klay Thompson tonight. We've seen them use him on Trae Young, on other high usage guards. So they'll try to put him to work here. But yeah, definitely that wouldn't surprise me if we see Curry versus Aaron Gordon at the top of the key a couple of sets tonight.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see how it rolls out. If that is the case, then it makes Kuminga a little bit better at that price even as well. All right, man. This has been great. I don't know how long we went. Hour and a half, but it is what it is. We had 11 games. We have all this brain NBA stuff to share. So it's been great, man. I loved having you on like usual. I look forward to the Saturday after the All-Star break, jumping back on your live stream. And like I say, give us some feedback, folks. Let us know if you want us to continue to do these collabs, and we'll keep trying to put these old and young brain together and see what we can come up with.
Not that young, Coach. I'm not that young.
Yeah, one of these
You're
days
not that old. Gosh, dang it.
Yeah. One of these days we're gonna have a side bet. One of us has to take off our hat as one of our bets. So that's coming down the future. Stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, then I'll really not look that young.
Well, you'll have such a glare from mine, you won't be able to see you on the screen. So don't worry about it.
It works.
All right, Gun. Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Anytime, the door's always open. And hopefully this helps everybody get after it and get it done. Any other plugs or anything else you want to throw out there, Gun?
Nah, man. Just hopefully people enjoy the All-Star break, recharge, and let us all light a candle for baseball to make it on time, hopefully.
I hope so. Yeah, that's the next big hurdle. We'll see how that goes. But all right, everyone, thank you so much for listening in. Hopefully this helps. Let us know. Show us some winners. Flash them up there. Hit us up on Twitter or YouTube, wherever you can find us. Again, dfscoachtalk.com. Check us out there. Grab the Luka special. Luka Magic, baby. All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy it. Catch Gun on his live streams today, the Prize Picks one and the DFS one. I know I'll be tuning in as well. All right. Thanks. Have a great day. Have a fantastic NBA evening. We'll catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in NBA DFS.